We were going to talk about dreaded topic today,
What topic is that?
politics.
Dreaded for some.
So here's the thing. There's a federal election coming up.
Is there? I hadn't noticed.
You read a lot, you watch a lot, you know a lot about politics generally and Australian politics.
If by that you mean more than you, yes.
More than me. I am incredibly apathetic about politics, I'll admit. I think I'm disappointed in myself that I am, but it's just not something I can care about. I, over my life, have felt like it doesn't really matter, which I think is not a great place to be in.
It's certainly a position that's shared by many.
I feel most politicians have let us down. You know the big thing that why I've given up on politicians? They're more interested in re-election and popularism than, and we touched on this last week, and this is just my ridiculous idealism. They don't try and bring society along. They don't try and explain why they're putting money into particular things. They don't try to adjust the hearts and minds.
Yeah.
Because it could be too controversial and they don't want to alienate.
Because it's hard, yes.
Right. So for me, I'm just like, what are we talking about here? We're just going to have these mind-numbing political debates about hot-button topics. You know, what annoys me a little bit about politics at the moment is how generally seems to be a lot of talking that if you are not voting Greens, Independent, Labor, you're a very bad person.
Yeah.
And I think that stifles a lot of true debate. That annoys me. Anyway, that brings me to what I think we should do today. I would like you to give, now I'm going to rein you in.
You can rein me in.
Shot glass version.
Yep.
You know, I like my shot glass
I'll do
versions.
my best.
I don't want.
Well, I already know you're bored by the subject, so I'm not going to bore you further.
No, but I want to be, I want to know, okay? I want to start thinking about.
Why don't you ask a question?
Okay, so tell me about the current state of play in 500 words or less. No.
Yeah, I can do that.
Current state of play so that I know what the field looks like.
Yep.
And then we can have a conversation about what's next.
All right. So it starts in 1901. No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
Actually, you know what? I'd find that more interesting.
You probably would.
Yeah.
You probably would. No. Okay, so this the really short version, and what we'll do is we'll stick with the House of Reps, not the Senate, because the Senate is a different scenario altogether. But the House of Reps, which is where the Prime Minister and all the ministers, most of the ministers sit. So right now, Labor is the government that you know. Anthony Albanese is the Prime Minister. They have a majority of one or two, like very small, very thin majority. On the opposition, the next best is the Liberals, Liberal National Party.
Yep.
They lost quite a few seats to the Teals, which are virtually behave as a party but call themselves independent. They act in unison, they vote in unison, but they are community independents, in inverted commas. That's a question for another day. They have 5, 6, 7 seats, something like that. Then you've got the Greens and some independents, maybe another small party or two. So crossbench is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, something like that.
Hold on. Sorry. Explain the Liberal National Party and what that means.
Right. So the Liberal Party is the party that will be, you know who the Liberal Party are. They'll contest in the city, and the National Party are like the regional and rural party. They're two separate parties, but they are a coalition and they go into together. So they don't stand in each other's seats.
So if they all get it and the numbers come in, they can form a government.
Yep.
Got it. Yep. Continue.
Okay. So Albanese is the Prime Minister. He has a 1 or 2 seat majority, very thin. So if 1 or 2 people get sick or fell off the perch, they would be in a minority government situation. They have what's called polling, where they grab 1,000 or 1,500 people randomly and ask them who they're going to vote for. The polling for Labor right now is horrendous. They've got what's called a primary vote, which is how many people would say, yes, I'll put them first on the ballot, is around 30%.
Okay.
Liberals are about 40%, Liberal National Party. Now, the Liberals need to be over 40% to ever have a chance of winning government in primary vote.
Is that because Labor will scoop up and pick
Greens, all the preferences of the Greens and the left parties, they organise around the Labor Party, where the right, in inverted commas, right-wing preferences, smaller parties, they go all over the place.
Got it.
So the left, in inverted commas, by the way, there's no emotion in this at all. I'm going to be as factual as possible. the left are far more organised when it comes to running campaigns, how they deal with preferences, deals, that sort of stuff. They're far more organised on the left.
Okay, am I putting you on the spot here? Give me the simple definition or explanation from a political leaning. Let's go left and right. Because again,
well, it's changed a lot. I think, now you're really testing me, I think it goes back to French Parliament a long time ago where that certain party sat on each side of the house, right? But let's leave that aside. Generally, the left will be more about government intervention, bigger government, social policy, education, like a lot of spending on the state. So more kids in state education, more funding for public hospitals, etc. Public.
got it.
Where the right will be more about, so it's collectivist. And I don't mean that in the Stalinist way, but like
You're
it's,
going to say that.
well, you know, although at times it is. But on the right, it's more about the individual.
Yes.
It's like the individual's rights and responsibilities, business to go out and to compete in the open market and to, well, it used to be go out and compete and win or lose. Now nobody loses. You socialise the losses for big business. So the right, they've come a lot closer together. So for instance, the left and the right in Australia is about this wide.
That's the next question I was going to ask.
The parties are almost identical.
Then why do they seem so different? Why does the discourse have commentators jumping up and down and being so vehemently opposed to the other?
Yeah. So there was a time when the left and the right of politics was significantly different. And in fact, in the US right now, they are significantly different. The left, like a Kamala Harris, California Democrats type left-wing party, is a left-wing party where Trump-led Republicans are isolationist, like they're heading down some real. So the US is reopening the gap left and right.
Do you think in Australia, when that happened, that was when people were just fixed on a party and they would never vote the other way?
People are still like that, but less.
Less.
But there was less. So there were no Greens really until, like as a real party, until probably well into the 90s.
Okay.
Well into the 90s.
Let's use our electorate as a case summary or whatever discussion. Case study.
Yeah.
Okay. We are in, what's it called now? Did it change?
What? I can't even remember.
Higgins, Kooyong. What are we in?
We're in Kooyong.
Kooyong, right.
Yeah.
Kooyong was
a
liberal.
I can't believe I blanked on that. Yeah.
Liberal.
Yeah, it was very strong
safe,
liberal. Like Josh Frydenberg was there for years.
Josh Frydenberg, no, never in doubt kind of thing.
For the most part, yeah.
Right. What happened?
I think 3 things happened. 4 things maybe. Kooyong. But then there's 4 or 5 other electorates at the Teals one that are very similar demographic.
Yep.
One, and if you want to make electorates more left-wing, put more apartments in them.
Okay.
So if you have more renters in higher density, they're going to vote to the left. And what's happened in Kooyong and others is that there's heaps of apartment projects and heaps more renters and they vote to the left.
Interesting.
Now, they're often the children of very rich people who have made money out of all the things that they now demonise by voting for the Teals. They've made all this money out of minerals and metals and all this.
Let's not go down there.
And now they're pulling up the drawbridge, which is quite funny. They're like, you can't, but we did.
Yep.
And then Monique Ryan and the Teals, they are virtually a party the way they've organised. They ran an unbelievable campaign. I say that. I mean, you saw it, the volunteers, the T-shirts, they were everywhere, right? And the best thing is they didn't run on any promises; they ran on feelings. So we believe, right? It's a we can. Yes, we can.
Yes.
Obama, Kevin Rudd, these sort of yes we can sort of stuff that came at exactly the right time because Morrison was finished and the Libs were toxic correctly in a lot of ways, and Frydenberg tide went out on him. He didn't lose by that much, but tide went out on him and the Libs and many others in electorates where there were demographic changes. Right, so there's been a lot of demographic changes. Having said that, there are a lot of very rich people who now feel they have to give back for all that they've taken. And they've sort of, the Teals caught lightning. Now, it'll be very interesting to see if that continues, widens, which it could do.
Yes.
This election could be another 5 Teal seats, or it could be a contraction. We're going to find out.
Because do you think that the policies that the Labor Teal combined government are now actually hitting the hip pocket of those traditionally wealthier that have.
Do you know what?
Like,
I don't even know if it's that. I think it's about the feeling, the vibe. The vibe is this. If I boiled down what the vibe is of this election, like Peter Dutton is not theoretically an electable Prime Minister, but then neither is Albanese. Like neither of them are popular leaders. They're both 30% guys. I think of what politicians would be if they weren't in politics. If Peter Dutton was not in Parliament, he'd probably run a security company, a big security company, something. That's the kind of guy he is. You need a guy like him in a very difficult portfolio.
Yeah.
But not many people are like, yeah, Peter Dutton out front. He's a strong man sort of thing. Albo would sort of be like, senior middle management in a government organisation or an NGO. He'd be sort of like, because he's a lovely guy, he seems to be, very popular, very decent guy. Lacks a bit of energy, never really run a heavy portfolio, and I feel like he's on the ropes hoping to lose. I feel like he doesn't actually want to win this election because it's hard being PM.
Sorry, you're going to keep going? Can I have let me know when I can ask.
What was the question again?
I don't even remember.
I'll tell you where the drift is and how we'll know how serious the electorate is.
Yeah.
This will be a kitchen table election. You say that your political parties annoy you and you're just like, whatever. They have forgotten, in my opinion, all of them, that what matters is the kitchen table.
Yep.
And that, like, they're so far from the normal Australians' experience, they don't even know what it is anymore.
Yes.
Right? Now, there might be people on the backbench who are younger, who are living in the real world, but these 20-year politics, they got no idea what's going on, and they don't even seem to care, to be honest, either party. So if a party or a Teals or a Greens can get to the kitchen table in the next 5-6 weeks in their messaging, they're a chance of making a serious dent.
All right, so Amelia Hamer?
Sure, Hamer, yeah.
She came to our door.
She did.
I understand you had a lovely chat with our little one.
Seems quite nice. Yes.
If I understand you gave her some advice, but
I don't really know.
What
I asked her what she was focusing on. Yeah,
I know you're not holding yourself out to be some great advisor
I'm
here.
certainly not.
But I'm interested to know,
yes,
if you were her advisor and you were running this campaign in our electorate, knowing what we know about our neighbours and the people around us and what we saw with the Teals campaign and Josh. What would how would you, I mean, we know that Monique Ryan and her crew know what they're doing and they're going to do the same thing.
Yep.
I've got my own views about that.
Yep.
What would you say Amelia Hamer's focus should be in this electorate?
Yeah, it's a good question. In like the Teal electorate
in
types.
A bubble. In this little bubble.
Yeah.
And it is a bubble.
Look, it has to be, like, I think there's 70,000 homes in Kooyong, something like that, right? I think that's right. Don't quote me on that. It could be half that, it could be double that. I think it's 70,000.
There's a lot.
So you got to think around that 70,000, there's going to be at least 5 or 6 different categories of voter.
Yep.
And then there's a percentage you're going to be rusted on and a percentage you're going to be rusted off. To get to the middle, I would be targeting kitchen table. Like, what is actually, so for instance, just quick stats to bore you to death. We had 8 quarters. That's 8 3 months. So it's 24, 8 3s, 24. Is that right? 32, 32, 24. 24. It's been a long day. 24 months of contraction at an individual level. So it's called GDP per capita. So
explain contraction.
The whole economy of Australia grows at less than 1% because we have 500 to 1 million immigrants coming in. That grows at the whole thing.
The money.
The whole size of the economy. People are out buying goods. They're doing this. They're doing that, right? They're spending money. But at an individual level, everyone has gone backwards
8 times
for 24 months in a row.
Right.
Now, you don't want to be in government in the last 2 years because of the post-COVID, like the inflation. It's a terrible time to be an incumbent, honestly. They're all going to get wiped out.
Yep.
But at the same time, these guys weren't barely even mentioning it. They're like, everything's great. We just keep pumping fake numbers when the real deal is the kitchen table GDP individual is getting smashed, right? That is what I'll be focusing on. If they're over 60 and they've got kids and grandkids, I'll be focusing on their kids and grandkids in my messaging. if they're in our age and that working, I'd be aiming at them and their kids.
25-year-olds.
But if it was 25-year-olds, I don't know. That's
age.
right, 25-year-olds. But 20-year-olds, I don't know that the Libs are going to get to them. So they're not going to vote.
Well, but maybe.
Not
if
enough.
But maybe if they can find some way to focus on cost of living.
Yeah, that's
entering the
I
housing
spend a bit
market,
of time on that. Yeah.
Market.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Amelia Hammer is running on the fact that she's a renter and she's trying to get in the housing market. And these guys, let me just be on housing. They're never going to do anything about housing, and I'll tell you why. This whole country's economy is built on, and you would know, lawyer, security against property, right? Every single thing in this country is secured by property. If you take 25% off the price, the value of every property in Australia, your economy disappears.
And where are all the super funds invested in?
Everything.
Banks.
Everything.
Yeah.
Banks for everything goes if the house price goes. So the politicians are never, ever, ever, ever,
All right,
ever
I'm
going to
giving
do
you
that.
30 seconds. If you want me to go and have an inquiring mind, what would you want me to think about when I am making an assessment of my candidates in my area?
Laura, I got to be honest. This cycle, I don't have anything to tell you. We've got two major parties that are the same.
Are you saying it doesn't matter?
No, I'm not saying it doesn't matter. I'm saying it is, I would say a far stronger word if it were not in mixed company. It's not good. It's not good.
Is it three words and the first are we are?
No, we're not though. Trajectory.
Right.
We are. So for instance, the trajectory that we are on as a country, we're not in bad shape as a country. We're in good shape by world standards, but the trajectory is bad. We are taxing and spending at the highest rate we ever have.
Mm-hmm.
We're printing fake jobs. We had our first quarter of 0.1 GDP per capita increase, but that's after 24 months of negativity.
Come on.
Yeah, okay. All the trajectories are bad. All of them.
Okay.
They're not mentioning any of them. Neither of them are standing for anything. So we basically have to punt on someone and hope that they get past the next election and decide to start doing something.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you for enlightening
There's no
us.
good answer as far as I can tell. People say vote minor party, vote this, vote that. It doesn't matter right now.
Yep.
Like right now, it's just a hot mess. We're going through one of those periods where there's no one of any real energy or animation that's in the mix. It's all very plain, middle, boring, controlled demolition of our economy.
Fun.
Shutting down every...
Sounds very positive.
I'll finish on one thing. One thing above all, I think that bothers me about Australian governments of all stripes today is that they've forgotten that private business, small, medium, the ones that aren't big enough to donate to political parties, are actually where all the action is. That's where people get skills training, they build wealth, they develop their own businesses, they grow, they sponsor sports clubs and they sponsor charities, and that's where it comes from. Think about some of your clients that have grown restaurants and the governments have just seen them as a tax centre.
That's a whole other conversation.